I was wrong. I hoped and later believed that Stipe would win. He did not. Here's what I got wrong. I thought Stipe would be more mobile, with more lateral movement. Instead, it was forwards and backwards. Stipe basically just ended up on train tracks. The footwork just wasn't up to snuff. Not enough pivots, a lot of plodding into range, too much standing still. Because of the footwork, he couldn't push Jon Jones back and put him in bad positions. I also underestimated Jon's kicking game at heavyweight. I thought he would tone it down, try to focus on boxing, getting into the clinch. But I did get a couple of things right. I said that Jon wouldn't take Stipe down with a conventional takedown. I said it would have to be a trip. Jon actually did have trouble dipping down really low because Stipe's legs are short and his hips are low. Jon wouldn't be able to submit him, and Stipe would kind of stall out on the ground and wait for a stand-up, whether it was the referee or the end of the round. I said Stipe would have trouble with the leg kicks, and I also said that how he dealt with it would decide the fight. Maybe not that extreme, but it was a factor. I thought that most of Stipe's success would come when he moved forward and pressed him backwards, and those blitzes were the best part of the fight for Stipe. There were some similarities to Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Yuck. Analysts will always talk about how power is the last thing to go, but they never talk about how explosivity and speed are the first. Slow power isn't really successful. Sure, Mike Tyson can punch hard, but he can't get into range. Same with Stipe. Partially because of his age, and also Jon's defensive structure, throwing fingertips into the space that his opponent needs to clear to get to him, effectively making his opponent choose between landing a punch or being able to see their children tomorrow. To win this fight the way it was going, Stipe was going to have to catch Jones at the end of a blitz. Jon zigs when he should have zagged, something like that. If you watched the prelims, you saw Marcus McGee versus Jonathan Martinez. You know how McGee moved in the third. Yeah, that was the default for Stipe. Stipe used calf kicks, but they were just too slow, and because of that, he couldn't fully commit. He would throw a calf kick and then leave his leg right in front of Jon, balancing on one foot. In fact, for the whole fight, Stipe fought like he was standing on a plate of jello. No hips, no knees, like fighting a sentient broom, just sweeping forward, if you will. People have said that I should delete my videos predicting that Stipe would win. Where's the fun in that? I'm a grown-ass man and I stand by what I said. But I will admit, I've never been great at picking fights. Like a lot of other people, I often pick with my heart and then try to rationalize it with my brain. This Stipe-themed adventure started with me saying it was going to be a 50-50 fight. Things escalated very quickly. Eventually I said that Stipe would 100% win this fight. I didn't advise anyone to bet, but if they did, I'm sorry. My bad. But Stipe did better than most people expected. Jones fans said that he would sub him in one round and embarrass him, but Jones at times was running from Stipe, and Stipe won about 20% of the exchanges. I've watched it back 3 or 4 times now, and I think that Stipe won the second round. I encourage you to also watch it back without commentary and tell me that it wasn't at least close. Third round, Stipe got rocked by a right hand, got his ribs broken by the back kick, but earlier in that round he had similar success to round 2. Stipe didn't get completely demolished here. It's also something that I touched on in the UFC 309 media recap, but this post-fight also just felt hokey. Tell me it didn't feel fake again, scripted again. Jon manufactured beef with Stipe over a sentence from months ago that had nothing to do with him and acted whiny all fight week. And then he gets to be pro-America and run with that shtick. Oh, you guys like Trump? I'll attach myself to him and I'll call Dana White Uncle Dana. See, guys? I'm so relatable. I'm just like you guys. I'm a proud Christian American champion. Guess who else is? Stipe Miocic. He just doesn't beat you over the head with it. It's almost like how Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi are so cool and celebrities love it and they have sporting events and shopping malls and the bright lights and the technology and the big buildings and this and that. And then you realize that they have some of the highest rates of modern slavery in the world. Maybe that was just my read though. And then I come to find out Jones probably isn't even pro-Trump. He's not following him. He's following Kamala twice. He's following 2 different accounts. And I'm not trying to get political, but someone said Christ is king at a Harris rally, and they were booed and ridiculed. It seems like that draws a pretty clear line in the sand. I think that Jon takes a lot of his fans for granted and will oftentimes cater to specific fans and almost play identity politics. He sort of expects different people to be fans of him, like, oh, Christians should be a fan of him, or Trump supporters. Now he's probably going to latch on to fighter pay advocates. The UFC doesn't want to pay me enough for the Aspinall fight. How much did you make against Stipe? Oh, just under 10 million. How much do you want for Aspinall? 20 million. And the hits just keep coming. Another man he successfully avoided praises his now retired former opponent, and what I would argue is Ngannou's most high-profile win, his crowning achievement, and Jon wants to shit on him with the nerd emoji. Ngannou didn't even mention Jones. He didn't mention the fight. He just talked about Stipe and what he means to him and what he means to the sport. And also, I get that it's cage fighting, but something about the follow-up shots after the body kick rubbed me the wrong way. The way that Stipe crumbled and how he looked and his age, it didn't really feel necessary to follow up. It wasn't like Stipe was just going to miraculously stand back up. He was sitting on the stool for a minute after the stoppage, right? Like, that could have been a really cool moment if Jon hits this wacky spinning back kick and then just walks away. That would be actually pretty cool. But to land those follow-up shots against old man Stipe, I don't know, it makes me feel icky. And then Jon alluded to Aspinall like it's a Marvel movie post-credit scene. We'll touch on that a little later. I'm usually a Joe Rogan apologist, but the commentary in this fight was just so frustrating. Second round, there was a low blow on the belt line. It probably moved the cup a little bit. Any other time, the commentary will say, oh, it could shimmy things out of position. If you hit the top of the cup, it moves down, it knocks you around a little bit. Not pleasant. But there was no leniency for Stipe. Actually, they doubled down and said that it was a strong body kick and that Stipe was being weak and that it was a bad sign. Head kick for Jones gets through partially. It hit his shoulder. How is that getting through partially if it lands on the shoulder? I wouldn't call it a block, but you could just say glancing shot on the shoulder. After the second round, Joe Rogan said, all Jon Jones. That was a close round. The cognitive dissonance of them saying that Jon beat the greatest heavyweight of all time when 5 minutes earlier they were shitting on Stipe, saying that he looked like a senior citizen, his cardio wasn't holding up, and his legs looked shot, and saying all this, and then still saying, oh, but he beat the most decorated heavyweight of all time. It's crazy to me. This win does very little for Jon's legacy. I guess he can say that he has a heavyweight title defense, but anyone who does more research than just looking at Jon's Wikipedia page understands that this fight means very little. And it also raises a very important question. How bad is Cyril gone? Stipe looked bad, but I wouldn't say that Jon looked good either. If that kick didn't land, if Stipe moved off the center line a little bit more, doesn't break a rib, takes the fight into the championship rounds, it's pretty hard to land an osteogari trip more than once, and it sure would have been interesting to see how heavyweight Jones' cardio holds up late in the fight. With all that being said, Tom Aspinall's style now looks like an even better matchup against Jones. More speed, lateral movement. The leg kicks from Stipe were decent at times, but they weren't fast. Tom could snap a leg kick out there way faster. I'd like to think that Tom's bottom game is better than Stipe, so he wouldn't be stuck there for long periods of time. But then again, maybe the elbows on the ground would do more to him than Stipe. We don't know how tough Tom Aspinall is. That's one of the things that's currently untested about Tom Aspinall. Can he be the nail? In the cage, Jon said he might give the people what they want, but immediately at the presser, he rolled that back. He said he'd prefer Pereira and that they'd have to pay him fuck you money. So I have a funny feeling that he's eventually going to price himself out of negotiations. I don't know, man. I don't want to see the Pereira fight. Jon's performance here gives me a little more confidence in Alex, but it just doesn't feel right.
Let me just say this. You can be a fan of Tom Aspinall. You can be a fan of Jon Jones. You can be a fan of Alex Pereira. You can be a fan of Stipe. You can't truly be a fan of the sport of MMA or the promotion of the UFC and not want the super fight with Pereira and Jon Jones.
Well, shit. I guess I'm not a true UFC fan. Just one final takeaway. Don't let your dislike of Jon cloud your judgment of Stipe's performance. It wasn't bad. It wasn't vintage Stipe, but he had moments and he went out on his shield. And he retired in the most Stipe Miocic way possible. I'm done. I'm hanging him up. I'm retiring. Thank God. A man of few words. Happy retirement, champ. Like, comment, and subscribe for more MMA content. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a good time.